This is the Joint Resolutions Issues Committee. I'm Robert Stark, joined with my co-chair Jason Wright and Marcus Ruiz Evans as a moderator. We're going to be discussing the Biden Civil Liberties Amendment. Work on finalizing that. Independence resolutions in support of, specifically discussing Hawaii and perhaps Puerto Rico. We talked about that as well, and then also some of the different crises abroad. To start things off, Jason, do you want to introduce the crisis in Lebanon and some of the different crises going on globally?
Yeah, sure. So last week we briefly hit on Lebanon. I mainly talked about starving animals, but I also did reference that animals in zoos are starving because there's not even food and fuel to go around for these people. As unfortunate as one is, the other is equally as sorrowful. So Lebanon, about a year ago, in the port of Beirut, there was an explosion of tremendous proportions. At first, there were some sources who were quick to claim terrorism. Through internal investigations from Lebanon and the Lebanese government, they actually found that the fault was not terrorism, the fault was government ineptitude. There have been explosions. Texas, about 100 and something years ago, had the most devastating port explosion in American history. Halifax, notably, had a historic explosion. They're usually from too much of a volatile type thing being brought in at any given time. And like Halifax, two ships collided, both, carrying stuff. It turned out Beirut, they were confiscating things and storing them, but they never really disposed of it. They never moved it away from there. And gradually things just kept building up. And as shipments of more things came in, something sets off an explosion, and that explosion led to basically it consumed everything there. All of the volatile materials were all consumed. It was bad. And people died. A lot of people died, and a lot more people were injured. And the people of Lebanon are still to this day very, very upset about it. There are still protests / riots. Some are, you can't call it a riot because these people are being very civil. Others, maybe you could call it a riot. I'm not going to judge it. I'm just going to say people are very obviously angered, upset, and I would say justifiably so. Their government should not have allowed for this situation because this is the potential. And it's not something that's new. It's something that's been known for a long time. And there are actually regulations to prevent this sort of thing. So they really, really dropped the massive ball. Because of that, their government at that time 1 year ago, their president and a whole bunch of other people stepped down. However, when they stepped down, they were given immunity. That is why the people are still angry. They want the politicians who did the crime to do the time. The crime was a crime of ineptitude. However, it led to a lot of death and injury. Someone's got to pay the price, right? And it shouldn't matter that they're a politician. Like, no one gets off for free on stuff like that. However, that immunity is still standing. And so, because their government stepped down and aside, a new president came in, and this guy just, about a week ago now, announced that he's going to step down because he can't get agreement enough from people to come together to form a working government for the people of Lebanon. They need a working government. It's been one whole year and some change that they have not had a working government. That's why fuel is short, food is short, water is short, the infrastructure is not being taken care of. Everything about the society and the economy, Lebanon as a whole, it's in jeopardy. And I think that it's pertinent for the world to pay attention. And if you have the means to do something, please do. Don't sit and talk about it. Do it.
And right now, it does seem like a primarily economic crisis, but what are the dangers of a political or ethnic sectarian crisis breaking out because of this? Obviously, which has been a factor in the past of Lebanon's history, but do you see signs of dangers of that?
Well, yeah. So there's always, especially in that part of the world, if you look at nations nearby in that region of the world, there's a whole lot of ISIS, Al-Qaeda kind of activity going on. And over in Syria, Jordan, right? Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, it's all a hot zone for the fight against the global terrorist threat. If the people are down and out enough of anywhere, look at World War II, right? Before World War II, how did that ever happen? Well, because World War I happened. At the end of World War I, agreements were made, treaties were signed, economy on all sides kind of dropped, but Germany paid a really, really, really heavy economic price. And it kept snowballing further and further, exponentially downhill, until the people were so downtrodden that it kind of didn't matter what you were, or like whether you might be a monster, or maybe you're a little bit crazy, but hey, you're promising them the world. You're promising them that the economy is going to get fixed, that their children will no longer be starving to death. That's really what the people care about, the voters, the masses, right? The politicians pander to them and tell them what they want. But really, the people care about the basic necessities the most. Food, health, education, work. If that is all gone, it doesn't matter who the people are. If they're subjected to extreme enough circumstances, just about anyone who doesn't overtly say, yeah, put me into power and I'll destroy the world and kill all of humanity. Barring that, pretty much anyone could stand a chance of getting into some serious power. And while Lebanon is maybe not seen as a world powerhouse militarily or economically or whatever, it is a sizable nation. They do produce things. We're all here in California. I'm here in California. One of my favorite restaurants, a friend of mine's restaurant, it's a Middle Eastern joint, Falafel Hut, and they sell Lebanese wine. and Lebanese beer. Well, now I can't really get that. But, Lebanese goods are good. And they make it around the world. And it's, maybe it's not the biggest slice of the pie, but you take any chunk out of the pie during a global pandemic. Sorry, it's a little redundant, global pandemic, but times like these, you need all the pie you can get. Even if it means sharing a little bit of crust over to the other side of the dish so that, maybe the filling doesn't just all fall out. How's that for analogy?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Brought to you by Jason Von Shakespeare.
So we're talking about we should look into resolutions on these crises, but I think last time we talked there was about five major ones around the world, possibly more. Would you say is Lebanon the priority?
Well, so there's also, I don't want to sound too biased, right? But there's also a crisis in Germany right now, of all places. Germany has had huge flooding and landslides. Like, there's been a significant death toll, some serious damage to infrastructure. We don't exactly have to go over all of that. Germany is fairly advanced, one of the world leaders in getting stuff done and solving problems and handling issues when they come up. So I'm not really inclined to say that the world needs to focus and maybe even dive into help, right? Because I think Germany will make it through this. However, it is a huge crisis. It is a huge thing. There are questions of could this have been prevented? So, it is worth a mention and keeping an eye on or an ear on. One of the major pressing things, though, that I would say, other than like Hong Kong or Nepal, Tibet, India, the Philippines, Indonesia, all being overrun with Delta variants.
Oh yeah.
To the point it's just, oh my, I don't want to have another heart wrench moment. I'm trying not to, but oh my goodness, people, this thing is real. It has really mutated. It is getting worse. It's getting worse side effects and becoming more infectious. Easier to spread, easier to catch, and killing more. So,
and in the United States as well, it is really it's really bad in states like Missouri, and
yeah. Here in California, where I'm at here in Marin County. Yeah, Marin County, as of last week, the numbers published stated something to the effect of 80% of all COVID cases coming up here now in Marin County.
Robert,
80% of them are Delta Corona.
Robert, what were you going to say?
Oh yeah, it kind of does relate to the censorship thing because a lot of the crisis is spreading Delta. It's absolutely true. It is because of low vaccination rates, but then the question is like the tactics where the Biden administration wants to coordinate with social media to shut down like anti-vax sentiment. Like it is the low vaccination rates are a huge problem, but those tactics. I think they just make things worse.
Oh yeah, and I agree because ultimately, America, land of the free, where you get to make the decision to blow your brains out with your gun if you want. You can go to Walmart and buy a gun and a Christmas ham. You can go four-wheeling out in a state park and trash it and tear down trees and probably get away with it because no one really pays attention to the federal land. You can poison yourself with cigarettes, alcohol, methamphetamine, heroin, you name it, depending on where you're at in the state. America. Oh, but the freedom to discuss whether or not to get a vaccinated. No, you will be silenced. How does that sound like America? I thought this was land of the free. You can do whatever you want. You can poison yourself or you can take care of yourself. It's your choice. America. But when it comes to this, no, you don't get a choice. No one gets a choice. And if you want a choice, you will be silenced. That really doesn't sound like freedom, democracy, the right to choose for one's own self, right? It sounds like very much the opposite.
Okay, I'm going to show the screen of the first email of thing we're working on. This is the Biden administration one. I already have it lined up to be emailed directly to you guys after we finish the notes here. These are pieces of news that came out. So they're using the Army surveillance.
The further news items that I sent. I guess we could just start by copying and pasting what we have so far into the chat, and then just reading it over. Then we can discuss what we can add to that.
Okay.
Yeah, and now I'd like to say on this whole ban people or organizations across all platforms if they don't agree with what they're saying. So, DW News, Deutsche Welle, German World News, DW. I like to watch them, and I watch news from all over the world. But one of the interesting, kind of awesome things that they've been doing lately is in their, daily, here's the news of the day kind of thing, they have a doctor who is an actual doctor of medicine doctor who understands more than just a thing or two about microbiology. And he answers questions. They field questions. You can, if it's a troll question, they probably won't select that one, right? But it's always really good questions, pertinent questions. For a while there was question of can breastfeeding mothers get the vaccine without it harming their infant? And, they answer stuff like that, very scientific, medical, and usually a very clear answer. They have clear, definitive proof that there are a few vaccines that you can still get corona after having been vaccinated.
So now I think
and
it's
still
80%. 80% is Delta for the United States, over 80%.
Yeah, everywhere Delta gets to, it takes over, and the original Alpha strain ends up kind of dropping into the background. But so this doctor on DW, right, said something that American media, now over there, they're very much into the science and the facts. If it's a hard thing to hear, it's a hard thing to hear, but at least it's the truth. Over here, it's more about, don't cause a panic. So, which, I can understand. No one wants to cause a panic and see chaos. But there is clear proof you can have been vaccinated and still get and then pass along corona. It's just it's less likely to like have very severe side effects or effects on you. But that actually means you could be more likely to not even notice you have it and be interacting with people and spreading it, right? Kind of makes it a little more dangerous. While people are going around maskless, thinking that Corona's over. So this opinion is very unpopular with the Biden administration. I get that it's unpopular with them, but this is medical science, right? It's actual medical science proof. And they don't like it. They disagree with it. They don't want it. So are they potentially going to silence Deutsche Welle news agency, international news agency? That's what I'm trying to get at with this.
Please be cautious when talking about coronavirus. I'm generally against this, even using words like that on stream. YouTube is unrelenting. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, there's with the debate about like fact checking and spreading misinformation. It is true that it can cause actual harm, but it's still protected under free speech. So the best way to deal with it is education, but any kind of like top-down centralized censorship is very dangerous. And I think what's happening with like the Biden administration in collaboration with social media is they are using misinformation just to justify further control and further censorship.
Yeah, and they may end up, I mean, if they really decide to hardcore take a bite of that apple, they are probably going to have to stuff that whole darn apple in their mouth all at once. They're going to have to take on all of the world news, media, social media, interweb stuff, everything. And, there was the one thing about they wanted to even monitor your SMS text messaging through partnership with T-Mobile, Sprint, Verizon, all of the carriers.
Give him a second. I'll be right back. Jason will be right back. I know what it is.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry.
All good. All good.
Yeah, so they quickly backed off of the let's monitor all your text messages for anything we don't like. Once that got around, but they still haven't backed down from the social media monitoring part. And then they're kind of doubling down with the, and I believe it was Jen Psaki, right? What's her name?
Yeah.
Had said, and I think we shouldn't even stop there. It's kind of telling. It's like when a cop says, "Oh, and by the way, you know what? I'm going to give you another ticket." No. The way the law works is if you break certain law that is a ticketable offense, you have earned yourself a ticket. cops shouldn't be feeling like, oh, I'm going to get one on you. And here's another one. And, you know, you again and again. Because that's immature, it's bullying. And it also says a lot about, like, how the person is inside, right? So why do we accept this from politicians and, you know, the spokesperson of the White House who's speaking on behalf of the White House? So, like, I mean, come on, man. You speak with the voice of the president and you say that tells me the president is thinking, oh, yeah, and then I'm going to get one more on you and another and another. And you know what? I'm going to do it again. And it kind of makes me remember that meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus where he's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And you're going to, what was it? Stay silent, sit down and like it. Something like that. Like, wow. Dude thinks he's governing over a bunch of little puppies or something that need to be brought to school. How to sit and behave, right? Like, it says a lot about what this person really thinks of the people that they are governing over. Be it, you know, White House, police officer, you name it.
I'm trying to find Biden monitor texts, and all you can find are articles saying these stupid conservatives think that's what they said. When I've heard liberals also say, yeah, that's what they said. So.
Yeah, the moment that is another awesome thing to point out. The moment that the White House started backing away from this whole tech censorship thing on one level, all of a sudden, everywhere online is just flooded with, no, Biden's not doing that, and you're dumb for thinking it.
Yeah, it's
kind of like how before the Biden-Harris administration got called out for the crisis at the border and their inaction, how, you know, people had to point out to them, you're perfectly okay with this very low number that Trump said, that, you know, he dropped it down to that to try to limit it even further, and you're okay with it. You're choosing to continue Trump policy. All of a sudden, they back away from it, and then everything that you see online about the crisis at the border says about how he is increasing the cap and this and that and the other, and oh, Saint Biden is the savior of, you know, and yeah, you know, it kind of hits me just like that. And, you know, I'm not going to conspiracy theory it and say, like, you know, people are working together to, you know, hide the truth, or, you know, this isn't a Fox Mulder X-Files moment, though I do love David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. Really, it's not so much conspiracy theory. It could actually be a legitimate conspiracy, which is a, you know, group of 2 or more people getting together deciding to do wrong. So, you know, by the technical definition, there could be something to that. And I mean, I observe patterns and figures and whatnot, and I can't not see the correlation. Am I wrong? Am I reading too much into it? Is it just coincidence that every time they reverse something after getting called out, miraculously, it's just coincidence that online just gets flooded with all of this other stuff?
right. Right. We have 30 minutes left.
Okay.
Would you like me to show you the email draft of the Biden resolution as it is now?
Yeah, can you post it in the chat?
Yes, it's a little easier if I just share screen because the chat only lets you post 2 sentences and I'd have to do like 6 or 7 copy overs.
Yeah, that was my thinking as well. I'm glad you said that.
Do I have your permission to share screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. This email is already set to go to you guys. This is very rough draft, but here's all the links to everything. You can clean that up. There you go. So there you go. Here we go. All these links to all the other stuff they're doing. Okay. And here's the other information about Biden. Here you go. I modified this draft a little bit, but it's still off Robert's basic text. It's a little sloppy just because it's the end of the day for me. Sorry, but the ideas are there. May I have your permission to read it, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. In the aftermath of
please.
greater political turmoil, and the proposed January 6th Commission on the Capitol Hill riots, the Biden-Harris administration has proposed one of the most draconian crackdowns on civil liberties in the name of fighting domestic extremism. I added a little bit on, this will have to get workshopped, and in the name of combating extremist views on the coronavirus pandemic. Just straightforward. The Biden administration has created a national strategy to combat domestic extremism using the same tactics long used against foreign nations during the Cold War. The Biden administration's national strategy for countering domestic terrorism and associated policies aimed to the same goal of combating extremist views, including into the range of public health issues, will create a new loss of civil liberties by instating such practices as encouraging people and associates to turn people in if they don't agree with their views, as occurred during the Nazi regime, suggesting that a person should be completely cut off from expressing themselves in the current way that's popular right now over the internet. If only one company complains, all other outlets should be immediately cut off, completely removing the person from any societal participation. Deploying military technology from foreign wars used to calm hostile populations on the domestic population. Loose definition of what defines extremist views, therefore providing what's known in sociological factors as a chilling effect. That the government could suspect your bad views in ways you can't even imagine because it is so undefined, and therefore this scares all participation in expression. Screening government employees about their political stances, some that is enshrined in the Constitution not to do. You're supposed to have free opinions. And proposing to monitor everyone's text messages as they do in communist China. Never before has the American government gone to such lengths to control their people. These measures of control are all new and extreme pushes back against civil liberties. Besides the crafted proposals, besides the crafted multiple ideas, again, we can edit this out. Having dire implications for the civil liberties of American citizens, this act demonstrates that the soft power of the American establishment is unable to hold the nation together. The abuse of civil liberties is often a sign that a nation is broken due to polarization, and that hard power must be used to maintain order and cohesion. And this crackdown on civil liberties is a perfect example of this old truth. We could add more to it, but I thought that this was, if we could workshop this, I thought this was pretty tight.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good so far. Like maybe like look for a few. I think most of the grammar part is pretty good. Improving the grammar, of course. But as far as like the material, maybe like if you want to add on the 2 stories that I sent you, but maybe that could also make it too cluttered. Like I think it's pretty good as it is. I think I sent you 2. I forget. One of them is a Capitol Police. I forget the other.
Yeah, and as far as me, I'm good with it. I would say I'll gladly do the Shakespearean grammar and spelling touch.
Perfect.
Once we are agreed that it is finalized and only needs just that quick little wash down.
Yeah. Well, if you guys are roughly okay with that, then the section in yellow, Jason will send over for editing. And hold on, Robert, let me find the additional information. Let's see here. Fine and civil liberties. I got the Glen Ring Dog, got the Capitol Police. I got the Washington Times. Capitol Police, identifying threats, Washington Times. I think I got all the articles in here, and the points are in here. I could be wrong. To the best of my knowledge, it's included. We can take a closer look. If you guys are okay with it, I'll send you the
Yeah, let's go ahead and double check that real quick, because we've been working on this one for a while, and I would like to see it done.
Yeah, I think it is pretty close to being done. I think mainly, I think the material, as far as material is concerned, it's close to being done. I think if we can do maybe one more like grammar check. Like I noticed a few obvious like typos where there's like a red marking underneath.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was
close
saying.
To being finished, yeah.
I'll go ahead and do that part.
Okay,
once
fantastic.
we're agreed that the only changes needed are like spelling, grammar, but the contents of it is good to go, that's when I'm gonna take the written text part of it. I'm gonna give it that quick little once over, wash down, clean it up, make sure there's no typos, no grammar, grammatical errors of syntax, the word nerd stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Jason Shakespeare. Okay. This yellow text is what we agree is going to be the final version, at least right now. It's got multiple points in there. It makes pretty good things. Not saying it has to be the end, but I think we have enough material in here that Jason can workshop this. Here's all the citations and everything we built into it. And so it's basically got everything. I'm now sending it. So that is in both of your email inboxes. Let me double check, make sure that got sent. Yep. So we all agree, Jason, please take the yellow and make it mellow.
Yep, and anything that is brown will get flushed down.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the literal golden rule in a power outage here in California, for anyone who's wondering.
Sorry. Okay. Next, solidarity speech. May I have your permission to pull up that email?
Yeah, I think you were going to do either Hawaii or Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I think we agreed Hawaii would be next, because we're going to do some more looking in on Puerto Rico. And I am going to try to get a hold of someone from the Puerto Rican independence movement, and or potentially their non-voting member of Congress, to see if we can maybe get them to help shed some more light and educate us further on this whole thing.
Nice. Next we have Puerto Rico, New Caledonia, Alaska, English, Cameroon, Hong Kong, Papua New Guinea, Hawaii, and Tigray. Jason just said he's going to study Puerto Rico. Okay. Hawaii. I think there's a lot there. It's very similar to California.
Yeah, both of us were annexed by the United States military. Both of us had our own working government. Both of us had our own societal structures that were actually quite successful. One thing that Hawaii has on actually really the entire rest of the world, not just California, is that their royal palace in Hawaii had a working telephone and had power before the White House over in Washington, D.C. So
That's right.
You know, they were not a primitive people by any means. They were very much modern.
May I propose something? When I'm looking at these resolutions, a lot of them were done, people had particular background, like ARTSOC. Jason was pivotal on that. Scotland, I think we all kind of knew. Baja, we all knew. But the Cape, right? That was Robert. Robert, you were pivotal on that. Robert, you pushed that and you made the draft. And Jason, you pretty much drove the process on the draft for ARTSOC. So I would propose, if you want, Jason, you can look into more information on Puerto Rico. And then eventually you would draft a statement. But in the meantime, you would try to draft a statement on Tigray, since you understand it better than anyone else. Marcus could draft a statement on Hawaii, and then Robert, you could pick one of these 5 to draft a statement on. And the reason I suggest that is I found that it's easier to come to a really good product if anybody does a rough draft.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I'm not saying you have to nail it. Just get something together. It seems to spur us.
And with Alaska, we could also use, it could be similar to Texas, use that as a basis, then change things.
Would you want to take Alaska, Robert, as a draft? You could take the Texas one.
Yeah, I can take that as a draft.
Jason, how do you feel about this system? Is it okay?
Yeah. I will gladly take on Puerto Rico, Tigray, Hong Kong. Hong Kong is kind of a sad, interesting type one, in that they do have an independence movement. There is a clear will of the people from within Hong Kong towards self-determination. There is even legal documentation precedent stating that Hong Kong would be able to govern itself and be its own entity like that. So all of that aside, the Chinese government does not recognize any of that as legal, as binding, as valid, and has already kind of squashed out some of it, even violently so, squashed out as much of the spirit of Hong Kong as they can. When we do Hong Kong, I think we should take a little more of a legal standpoint with it, right? Where we kind of do we support the right to self-determination, we support the decision as laid down by World Court, as agreed upon by the governments of China and Great Britain, You know, something to that effect. But ultimately, it kind of doesn't matter anymore, as sad as that is. And that's mainly because the Chinese government has totally squashed out as much of it as they can. Which, you know, it makes me grateful that we're here and not in Hong Kong trying to fight for our independence. Because over there, it really is a fight. Whereas for us, it's a discussion. So I don't want to sound too privileged. I just want to acknowledge that privilege that we have.
Is there an independence movement in Hong Kong? That's like an open question. Like,
oh yeah, has been for some years.
I know it's been there for years, but is it basically?
Yeah, you'll be hard pressed to find anything about it now because the Chinese government censors the media, social media, all of it. Any sort of bandwidth usage, it basically goes through the Chinese Communist Party's filter. Probably more than once. Yeah, they have scrubbed. They have some of the last things that I saw from one of the people that I was in contact with, who I have not heard from since things turned violent I believe that was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. You know, there were lots of student protests in the streets, and then it looked like Tiananmen Square 2 was about to happen. But yeah, be hard pressed to find any of it now. Hard pressed to get in contact with people who are over there right now. Yeah, I mean, I do try to keep my eyes open and ears perked up anytime I hear Hong Kong come up, but honestly, it's seeming rather unfortunate for our brothers and sisters in self-determination seeking.
Let me ask the tough question. Robert, would you want to take any of these 4 here? That includes Hong Kong, English Cameroon, Papua.
I'll just stick with Alaska for now.
Okay. Then this is the list. Jason, take a look at Puerto Rico, but please work on a draft for Tigray. Robert, Alaska, Marcus, Hawaii. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll start with Alaska, and then I'll move on to other ones.
Okay.
Now, can I ask everyone in the group, can I ask your opinions? Because I've been following along with the actual Tigray people's movement. There's like an organization pretty much our counterpart over there. If I can get someone from there to potentially attend one of our Congress sessions, could we spend a little bit of time, you know, just like with Hawaii, just like with Puerto Rico, right? I mean, really, I think we should do this with all of these groups and, you know, movements that we're trying to do this with. If we can get someone from their org or side of things to come and, hey, you know, help educate us. If we want to talk about it and we don't want to, you know, say the wrong things, and we don't want to not say the right things that we're supposed to say. So, you know, please come educate us on what it is that you're doing, what it's about, who you are, you know. So if I can get in touch with someone from the Tigray people's movement, would you guys be open to, if they can attend one of our Tuesday night meetings, could we do that and then like spend some like serious time
Yeah,
on it?
that's fine.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Fucking, I'm sorry. That'd be. Oh, I apologize.
Do
Sorry.
you think having a speaker would that be better for this meeting or for the Sunday meeting?
Whatever
Well,
one you guys want.
Yeah, I mean, the Sunday meetings have been shorter lately because we've got the debates, although it seems like debates may be potentially getting moved to Saturdays, almost at Thursday. At least this next upcoming one is Saturday. So who knows? Maybe Sunday meetings, the Congress sessions might go back to being like full length. In which case, doing it there would probably be better. But if we're still doing short session of Congress, then I would actually suggest we do it on a Tuesday, mainly so that it doesn't really take up, because if we're doing short session for Sunday, then Sunday's short session. Try and say that one 10 times fast. If we do that, then, discussing something in depth isn't really an option. And like, it would mean taking up the entirety of the short session. So it just kind of, play it by ear, depends on what we're doing. And also, I have to reach out again and, then we have to see if they accept the invite. So.
Yeah. Robert, when you invited the Cape party, we got them into the meeting, and then now we're making resolutions. And Jason, you've reached out to people in Armenia. So my opinion is whatever works to get them here, right? So
I think either one could, but the Sunday meeting there's exposure to a much greater number of people.
I agree with everything Jason's saying. I agree with everything you're saying, Robert. It would be better for more time. So just feel it out, right? Like if they want more one-on-one in depth, we should go with what Jason's saying. Come here to this meeting. We'll give you a lot of love. If they want big exposure, maybe they go to the Kellogg's meeting.
Okay, yeah. Give everyone the option. That's a good. I think that's a good way to approach it. Yeah.
We win when these people come out. If they show up to any meetings, if we have any resolutions with their involvement, that's awesome. If they come to any meetings, that's awesome. So I'm like,
well, and they win too, because we win again because we invited them because we care about the issue.
Yeah.
And they win because now that issue is getting more light and more world focused. And then we win again because, hey, maybe now that world issue is solved and this thing that we care about is now done and taken care of. Woohoo! So, one hand washes the other, washes the other, washes the other.
Exactly.
It's the real roller coaster of love.
Nice. Okay, I just sent the assignments for the civil liberties and the resolutions to both of you guys. So you have two different emails. One is going to say resolutions meeting on Tuesday, Biden civil liberties thing. That's got the speech for Jason to workshop, and then we'll take it from there. And then you both have a resolutions and solidarity speech list. T. Gray, Jason, Hawaii, Marcus, Alaska, Robert. And that has been sent to both of you. We're doing pretty well. We got 20 more minutes. So, Robert, Jason, what would you guys like to cover? We did the Biden civil liberties thing. We got it down to an action item down. That's in the process. We have 3 resolutions.
Yes, if we want to put out resolutions on if we discuss whether to put out resolutions on the different crises overseas that we touched on in the beginning with Lebanon.
Okay, you guys take it away. Robert, Jason, what do you think we should do or say?
Well, I'll let Robert speak first. I'd be interested in hearing some of your thoughts on it.
I guess to go back, like just have like if we want to like list a summary of all the different nations that are in crisis, and then which one should be a priority.
Well, yeah. So I know which ones I always hear about, and I mean, Tigray, Afar, both are regions in Ethiopia with independence movement. And Afar is where my friend he was born there, raised here in California, is now back over in Afar. But
Wow.
yeah, you've got Nepal, Tibet, right? The COVID situation there mainly, right? Like it's bad, and it's not a science denier's. I mean, it is a science denier's worst nightmare because you can't see it and deny the science. It's that bad. Malaysia, Philippines as well. There's not so widely talked about thing is what's her name? The lady who's the current leader of Malaysia or whatever. Or maybe she's not the current now. They like deposed her or something, and the military came and took over. And she did kind of ruffle some huge waves up, like her second or third day in office, giving a speech about how genocide had been committed against her people, so now it's their turn.
Who said that?
Which folks, yeah, right? And the first woman elected to the highest position of government over in Malaysia, I believe it was.
Oh my God.
Who has since been deposed by the military.
Wow.
But
wow, that's wow.
Yeah, she, upon becoming president-elect or prime minister-elect or whatever it is, she was going to be awarded I believe it was a Nobel for like humanitarian work or something, which just totally is why everyone was like, well, what? When she gave that statement. And there was a lot of fire behind it. Like, it was a little bit reminiscent of, that point in time between the two world wars in Germany. There was this guy who was really fired up behind the podium and got everyone fired up. And that is kind of what she did. And then she was not awarded the humanitarian Nobel. And she kind of got the message. She toned it down and calmed it down, but people had already started getting violent against others based on ethnic diversity. But yeah, she then, and being as bad as that is, she was the democratically elected, voted in by the majority of the people leader. And the former leader, the head of the military, who had been the dictator superium or whatever, supremium, for like 20 years, 30 years, something like that. He deposed her, had her arrested, took back over, but not right when she like made that scary statement. Like, anyone who's like, well, yeah, but she made that scary statement, so it's just no. This is a couple of years down the road after she's calmed down, and he decides he's going to have her arrested right before the next election, right? And now it's him in charge again, military rule. Pretty much back to the same old dictatorship. Oh, maybe it's Myanmar. Maybe that's the one. I keep saying Malaysia. It's Myanmar.
Oh, and Suu Kyi. Yeah.
Suu Kyi. Yeah.
Yeah, they made a big deal about her, and then she was talking genocide crap. I mean, she did, and they ignored warning signs beforehand, which is why a lot of people think that the Nobel Peace Prize Committee is garbage, because they keep doing things like this. Like when they nominated Yasser Arafat, and then he blew people up afterwards. Or when they nominate Barack Obama for peace with Russia, and then we go to the height of the Cold War. I blame that committee.
Yeah, it's almost like they're kind of not doing any research on any of this. They just hear someone's popular and they're like, let's give them an award. And those awards come with a little money to help stimulate you into getting involved in whatever field that is. And it's a lot of these people that they give it to are just really super wealthy autocrats anyway. I mean, what does Barack Obama need with $250,000 from the Nobel Foundation, along with a medal to hang around his neck? Well, okay, I get the medal. That's nice. I get the award. That's nice. That's claim to fame. But couldn't they have put that $250,000 or whatever into a school or something? Give it to a dude who's currently leading the most powerful nation on the planet and is also insanely wealthy, and that's the person you feel like you need to give him a little extra stimulation to his wallet so that maybe he'll go get involved in this field. The dude's already the head of the whole dang field. He's the president of the United States. So yeah, as much as I loved, and the history of the Nobel Prize itself is a little bit dark, but it's actually kind of touchingly powerful. Alfred Nobel, he made a process that made it easier to make lots of TNT. And, it was during large industrial mining time. So, lots and lots of TNT was needed. Now, lots and lots of TNT can get used. Except what they were using was actually gunpowder-based dynamite. And it wasn't actually trinitrotoluene, and which is what TNT stands for. The chemical mixture of it was actually so volatile that sometimes it would explode all by itself without any stimulation. You wouldn't even have to drop a stick of dynamite for it to blow up. It would just kaboom, randomly. So he then made the process for actual trinitrotoluene to make safe dynamite, TNT. And yes, a lot of people were maimed and killed using his first invention. And then he took everything he had and pumped it into making that invention way better, way safer. And it's still around to this day and deemed as a fairly safe. I mean, they got explosive stuff of all different kinds. And really, when it comes to anytime, they're gonna make a new hospital or something, right? And so you got to blast down to the bedrock there so that you got this solid foundation so that, if the earth shakes, the hospital doesn't come down around a bunch of injured people.
Yeah. So, what other international issues? Any other issues, Robert? Is there other international issues you'd like to cover?
It looks like we're getting close to the end of the meeting, but just to kind of summarize the nations, in the Western Hemisphere, Cuba, Haiti, and Venezuela, South Africa, Lebanon, then the COVID case, the COVID catastrophe in Indonesia, Nepal, and some of the ones we've already covered, like in ARTSOC.
Yeah, Azerbaijan right now
Jason, I'd just like to let Robert finish, please.
Yeah, I'm basically finished with that one, but just creating. I think we should start off by putting forth a list, and then we can go over those in the future.
Okay, so one more time. Cuba, and then what else?
In the Western Hemisphere, Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, South Africa, Lebanon, Armenia. And then cases, if one's involving COVID, that could be put in a separate resolution. If you want to just put nations impacted by the pandemic in one category or a separate, we can discuss that. But just to start, just to create a full list.
Jason?
Yeah, one thing I was going to say is that as of just a couple of days ago, Azerbaijan military forces actually moved into and are now occupying internationally recognized Armenian territory. So the war is more than likely back on, and yeah, I mean, we don't have enough time to get into it, so I'm not going to go there with it, but everyone who has any concern for the people of Armenia and the people of Artsakh, tune in on that. Check out what's going on. Check out what's been going on the last few days. And check out the American silence. There was one person, one elected representative, official from America who, was like, hey, can't be doing that. Bad. Needs to stop. And, America had said a thing about the genocide, but then gave a ton, not gave, it was an arms deal. So, America just sold a whole bunch of more arms to Azerbaijan, who's now going to be more than likely, using those freshly attained American weapons on our beloved brothers and sisters and allies, no less. Just saying. Check it out.
I'd recommend follow this is site Conflict News on Twitter, and they keep updates. So I'm not sure if this is major, but it did say it looks like some conflict with Israel and Lebanon that was posted 19 hours ago. And then on Conflict News on Twitter, it also mentioned breaking heavy fighting between Armenian and Azerbaijani forces reported on the border near Nakhchivan Enclave, and that was posted yesterday.
Wow. Thanks, guys. Wow.
Yep. So breaking world issues news. You heard it here. Maybe not first, but you definitely are going to hear about it here because that's what we specialize in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, okay, well, as we're winding down, I think it's important to say that there are also other peoples who are known as basically stateless peoples. And you don't hear a lot about them because they don't really have a country. So there's really no framework, and they usually are subsumed into a larger country that says, well, you're just an ethnic minority and we think you complain a lot, so we're not really going to cover you in our national media, and therefore you're not really going to be heard about. And so we don't even really hear so much about them. And all those stateless peoples, there is the Tuareg of Chad and North Africa. And
if you'd allow me real quick, Tuareg. It's like
Tuareg.
T-W-A-R. Tuareg.
Tuareg. There's also the Pygmies of South Congo and the Biafran ethnic group of South Congo. There is the Baluchistanis, who are Sunnis in Iran. And to all those people, we recognize your plight too, and we will be covering you.
Should we make a full list of stateless peoples?
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I'd be down with that.
Okay, yeah. Stateless peoples.
We could also, we could make varying lists, like a list of stateless peoples, a list of microstates, a list of micronations.
Right.
Like our good pal Adam Kokesh over in Gardenia.
Right. Yeah, that's not bad. That's pretty cool, actually. Stateless nations, independence movements, and international conflict zones. That's pretty cool. Really shows a wide breadth of understanding of the outside world.
And seriously medically affected. I'm kind of referring to it as pandemia, right? Because it's the pandemic and pandemonium from the pandemic. It's pandemia.
Huh.
But nations afflicted by pandemia, something like that. And that one may have crossover, right? Because pretty much no one in the world has not been affected by this thing. But also, some of them right now are doing much worse than others and kind of need a little bit of extra world attention and love.
There you go. All they need is love.
Ba-ba-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, there you go. Robert, take it from there. Beatles. This is the part where you chime in with that. All they need is love.
Huh.
Do. Okay, we'll practice that because it's really important and make sure we get it right next meeting. Okay, who wants to do? Who wants to do the
I'll
closing?
go ahead and do the outro.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, you guys we all got resolutions to work on. So maybe if we could get a draft by next week.
Yeah, so you emailed them all out.
Yeah, and then if we could have a draft by next week, then next meeting we could spend looking at those drafts and refining them. We might get 3 out, pretty good. And then Jason, please go to town with the thing that you do.
Alrighty.
Leave it to you for an outro, brother.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I have been one of the co-chairs, accompanied by the ever-fabulous Robert Stark, as well as our organization's president as moderator, Mr. Marcus Ruiz-Evans. You have been tuned in on Tuesday, July the 20th, in the year of our great and powerful Lord, Oz 2021. This has been the Joint Issues or Resolutions Committee meeting of Yes California's Calexic Congress. Thank you all for watching and listening, and no matter where you are, no matter who you are, stay safe.
Nice.